Well, we're very lucky to have David Clendon with us tonight. He's torn himself away from parliamentary business to speak to the Do Something seminar about the challenges and the pitfalls, perhaps, of the super city. So, David, could you please just perhaps summarise where you stand in terms of the merger?
At base, I think the merger was probably unnecessary. It's much more radical intervention than was really required. We did need to break some deadlocks and to get some movement in some key infrastructure areas particularly, but I don't believe we had to completely reinvent the entire region to do that. I think it's gone too far, it's been too fast, and I think the outcomes are going to be very costly, both in dollar terms and in human terms.
You talked about one of the, you covered a lot of the losses that are potentially going to chip away at people's idea of what it means to live in their particular part of Auckland. Do you think that, you're speaking here in Wellington, is there still a widespread ignorance about Auckland?
I think there is. Ignorance perhaps some people simply don't know. But I do feel, there's always this thing about Jaffas, and I think there's, in a sense, some people think, well, that's happening in Auckland, they've probably got it coming to them, this is just one of those crazy Auckland things. And that's okay to a point. Auckland is unique, it is the largest conglomerate in the country and so on, but I think people have to be aware that what is happening in Auckland, the forced amalgamation, could very well be played out in other areas, and I do think Wellington would probably be a prime target for that.
On a slightly off-the-wall angle, in some ways I've heard it referred to as being an opportunity as well for Auckland's new mayor to foot it on a national basis with a central government that tends to treat local government as a bit of a joke.
You're right, the mayor will be extremely powerful. 1.4 million people in his domain. The bill, what will be the legislation, allows some significant resources. So yes, I think that Wellington could be creating a monster that will come back to bite them in time. It depends very much on the personality of the mayor, of course, whoever is elected to that position.
From what you've told us tonight, the third reading of the third Auckland bill is almost a fait accompli. So now we're looking at the election run. Could you tell us a little bit about the things that you referred to tonight about gearing up for that election?
Yeah. Well, clearly the focus is very much on the the mayoral race, John Banks and Len Brown. Len Brown has quite a comfortable lead at the moment, which some people are very pleased about. In terms of the council positions, there has already been some candidates declared. There is a deal of coalition building going on. People are realising that there's only 20 seats at the top table. If we have too many candidates, they'll simply trip each other up. So there is a deal of negotiating, sort of coalition building, and just agreements being developed in order to get the best balance on that council that we can achieve, I think.
Now, as a former lecturer in media and propaganda, or I gather it's one of the topics that you covered in your academic career, do you think Len Brown will get a good run?
Well, he is getting a good run, and I think where Len's strength lies and he is genuinely community-based. He was 12 years on the Otara Community Board. He's acknowledged as being a very good builder of communities, a very good builder of coalitions, of networks. He's very strongly supported in South Auckland, significant support in West Auckland, increasing support in Auckland City, probably weakest on the North Shore. So he's very affable, he's very persuasive, people warm to him very quickly, and I think that'll all be to his advantage.
And of course, the next big event in Auckland, forgetting about the rugby, if that's possible, will be the general election next year. Do you see that some of the issues discussed here tonight will come back and bite the current government?
I think that the outcome of the Auckland local body election could actually influence the general election the following year. If there's a clear win, dare I say it, for Mr Banks, who I'll associate with the right, then I think that would certainly put a lot of heart into this National Act government. Equally, if there's a significant win for Len Brown and a a left-leaning progressive council, then I think that would concern the central government, because it would indicate that their majority is not bulletproof, that it would also set up within the community a sense that, oh, we effected a change there, and I think that would give considerable heart to the parties currently in opposition, I believe, yes.
And finally, democracy, dead or alive in New Zealand?
It's still alive. I mean, I'm part of a democratic institution. We get the right to vote. We are still a very powerfully democratic society. But I think we had to be alert to the fact that small chips from a large piece of stone leaves you ultimately with a big pile of chips. And so I think we have to be very overt and very strongly oppose any imposition or any reduction of our democratic rights and process.